So I was explaining you on the maximum suction lift. Okay. See, whenever we have buy a pump, whenever we buy a pump, the pump has to be installed at one particular point. Okay, and that is the maximum. So in the atmosphere, if you look at the atmosphere, what are the maximum head we can create? We can create is actually is PA by rho into G. This is your atmospheric pressure. Now, when I try to suck the air from the pump or your reservoir, maybe sump or reservoir we call reservoir, so there is some kind of negative pressure created near the eye. So the water is sucked from your reservoir or sump towards the eye, and I can develop the pressure and deliver it to the Z point. So if that is the case, I should place my pump in such a way that it is the maximum. So maximum suction lift is something, but it is the maximum suction head required. So that is the suction head required, where I can place the pump without any formation of cavitation, all those things. I should ensure that, because what happens if I keep on increasing my, say for example, I have my HS, this HS is there. If I keep on increasing my HS, what will happen at one particular point, the pressure at the eye, that is 2 to what I have written, may drop below your vapor pressure, which is not desirable. So what we have to do actually, we have to ensure that at any given point, the pressure near the eye of the impeller should be equal to vapor pressure. So it should be actually greater than vapor pressure. Desirable, it should be slightly greater than vapor pressure. Then I can ensure there is no formation of the bubbles and the pump can work smoothly. So I've written a sketch here, simple sketch with an impeller, a casing, a suction pipe with a delivery pipe, with a delivery wall and a foot wall, all those things I've written. So what will happen, I have written 1, 1. So that is the section, means that is the free surface. That is the sump surface or reservoir surface at the ground level. And 2, 2 is the center line of your centrifugal pump. I have taken that as a 2, 2. Now, I have to ensure that. So what is the, if I try to apply the Bernoulli's theorem between 1 and 2. So if I apply the Bernoulli's theorem, applying the Bernoulli's theorem, applying the Bernoulli's equation between 1 and 2. If I apply, what I'm going to get actually, at 1 it is P1 by rho g, that is my pressure head, V1 square by 2g plus Z1 is equal to P2 by rho g plus V2 square by 2g plus Z2 plus some losses. What are the types of losses? It includes the friction loss or leakage loss, whatever it may be, all the losses. Okay, and usually this we consider under HLS, that is your friction losses. Now, if you look at the point 1, 1, what will be the velocity? The fluid is stationary, so the velocity V1 should be 0, and the Z1, that is the datum, so Z1 also will be 0. So I can cancel this too. So V1 is 0 and Z1 is 0. What I'm left with? P1. What is my P1? So your P1 is your P atmospheric. I can write PA by rho into G is equal to your P2 by rho into G plus V2 square by 2G plus Z2 plus your frictional losses. Now I will take everything. So I want in terms of Z2. So Z2 is equal to your PA by rho G, I can write it as HA. And what is P2 by rho G? This is your H2, and I should ensure that this is greater than your or equal to your H vapor, that is vapor head. So your H is equal to P atmospheric by rho into G. So I can write this as HV minus your V2 square by, so that is the velocity with which it will be very low value. So it will be very low value entering the eye of the impeller minus HFS. Now what is this Z2? This Z2 we call it as maximum suction left. So now maximum suction left is equal to HA minus HV minus V2 square by 2G minus HFS. So this is the expression for maximum suction lift. Is it possible? See, my HFS will be minimum. Your HFS will be minimum if I go for a very smooth and a new pipe. And if I try to maintain my height to such a way that always my P2 pressure is less than or equal to your vapor pressure, so then I can it will be equal to HV or it will be greater than HV. I don't have any control over HA because that will be always atmospheric. But what happens to atmospheric? Can this HA be HA? Say if I try to place my pump at sea level or at so many 1,000 feet above your sea level. So there are certain factors. So there are certain factors affecting your MSL. So what are those? If looking at the equation, if I call that as equation number 1 or whatever it may be, the factors affecting the maximum suction lift. Factors affecting the maximum suction lift. What are those actually? Now, the first one is your altitude. What is it? Altitude? Height at which your centrifugal may be inside, at which the centrifugal pump is installed. Pump is installed. So what will happen if I try to install my centrifugal pump on an hill station? If I try to install, what will happen? Your HA will drop because my pressure, if I go up, it will go down. But what will happen at sea level? This will be equal to your atmosphere. So at few hundred meters above your sea level, I'll be able to maintain. So I should ensure that when I'm trying to install my centrifugal pump on a hill station, this HA should not. So I should ensure that this HA doesn't fall below your vapor or whatever. I should not put it in such a way. So that's one of the factor. Then the second factor, the pipe parameters. The pipe parameters, which will have an impact on your frictional head, that is HFS. So what are those actually? Those are your friction. How we can calculate this friction actually? So we will try to put the diameter, that is for a given diameter, for a given velocity, we will try to find the Reynolds number, and from the Moody's diagram, depending upon your Reynolds number, we will try to find the friction coefficient. So for a smooth pipe, this friction coefficient will be very, very low. So F is equal to some number like 0.001. And as the pipe becomes older and older, so this F value may become 0.001, it may become 0.01 or 001 or 0.02 like that. So the friction will increase if I go for a rough pipe, and friction will be lower for a smooth. Okay. Next, length of the pipe. So I should ensure that on my suction side, the length is as less as possible. We start with something like I'm going to have my sump at one corner of a building, and I have my centrifugal pump installed in the other corner of the building and connect it through a suction pipe. This should not happen. So your pump should be exactly above your sump as much as possible. nearer to the your reservoir or a sump, so that I can reduce this HFS because the length of the pipe required is less. Okay. Next, some of the fittings actually. What is it actually? This fittings, there is something like I have a bend losses, or maybe at a one particular point, your pipe, maybe I need to reduce the diameter. So maybe 1 inch diameter will reduce to 3/4 inch of it. So what are the changes I want to bring along the suction pipe? We should ensure that these things are not done as much as possible. They should be minimum. So the pipe fittings, the bend, and the connection of the footwall, the valves, and all this should be that should take care in such a way that it should reduce your frictional HFS or frictional parameters. And then the diameter of the pipe. Say I may need a bigger diameter of the pipe. If I say we'll go to the market and we'll see there will be some standard diameter, half an inch pipe or 3/4 inch, 1 inch pipe and all. So suppose I'm supposed to put an 1 inch pipe. So you won't get a 1 inch pipe. What you will do? You will come with a 3/4 inch pipe. So actually, you are paying the penalty in the form of HFS. So we have to ensure that the proper diameter of the pipe is taken on the suction side when you are connecting. Or this will have an impact on your maximum suction. And also, the third parameter is your fluid velocity. The fluid velocity, this should be as much as possible. This is your V2 or the velocity with which the fluid enters. This should be as much as possible. It can't be very high. It should be, but there should be some velocity, but this should be minimum. This should be minimum. Okay. Next, your vapor pressure will have an impact on your ambient temperature. That is your ambient or atmospheric temperature. The atmospheric or ambient temperature will have an impact on your vapor pressure, and that in turns. So what will happen if my temperature increases, your vapor pressure also will increase, and what will happen? There is a formation of bubbles. So when the formation of the bubbles, what will happen? That will lead to what is called as cavitation. Okay, this is something called as maximum suction lift and the factors affecting the maximum suction lift. So one more parameter we have to discuss. Okay, that we call it as the net positive suction head. Net positive suction head. Net positive suction head, or we call it as, see, this is NPSH available. So there are two types of NPSH. One is your manufacturer of the pump. You will design it. You are not designing this pump from your turbo machinery course, but should know it. What is this NPSH? This NPSH is required, is calculated by the manufacturers. Manufacturer will give, he will, while designing the pump or while manufacturing that, he will calculate and he will give that. Okay, this number will be given by the manufacturer. Okay, now at the same time, your NPSH available is your at the time of installation we try to do, and once the installation is done, we'll ensure that always this net positive suction head is always maintained. What is it actually? Take up the same sketch which I wrote yesterday. Okay. Now, suppose you have a sump. This is your reservoir or a sump. So the fluid is there. This is your sump or reservoir, and fluid is there. Now I want to place my pump. So I have the red box. This is your pump. So this is the pump stand or whatever, maybe the base or something. This is also a pump. So now maximum suction lift will clearly give me that what should be my, see this is the, what is MSL actually? Maximum suction lift, this is the height at which the pump has to be placed above your free surface. That is your, with respect to, say, what is this actually? This is the central line. MSL height is clearly, that is the central line. Then I do have some of the losses. All those things, HV, HFS, V2 square, all those things, they are all losses. And we have HA minus that particular thing will give my MSL. Already we have an equation. Your MSL is given by HA minus HV plus HFS plus V2 square by 2G. Okay. Now, NP as such required is calculated by manufacturer. A manufacturer, yes, some methodology where you will try to put the pump, a standard design pump under different conditions, and you will try to play with this MSL and come up with some number. Come up with a number and tell that yes, the pump will work efficiently without any, so it doesn't do any malfunction at all between this height. So between this height, that means there is a limit. Upper specific limit is already determined by your maximum suction limit. That is your MSL, maximum suction limit. And there is a lower limit. There is a lower limit, and that lower limit which clearly, so that is the height under which, so that is also a suction limit. I have upper limit, I have a lower limit. So anything below lower limit, your pump will not work. Pump will not be able to suck anything. So there is a difference. So there is upper limit and lower limit. So the pump will work efficiently. So this is the NPSH available at your installation. At installation, available at installation. Design is something. See, NPSH required is manufacturer will design and tell. You may this NPSH available required is maybe your NPSH available will be always greater than your NPSH required. So this should be NPSH available should be always greater than NPSH required. Then only the range should be more. You will tell that it will work under 0.2 meters. So your NPS, so that particular thing. So it all depends on which place. Lot of, you will give that, please use a 1-inch pipe, diameter of pipe, the length of the suction pipe. Maybe some specific, some manufacturers will clearly give that. The suction pipe, it will work under 1 meter. Suppose you might have put 1.2 meters length of the pipe. So at that particular point, your NPSH will vary. So I should ensure that net positive suction head has to be available at the given installation point is given by, say, what is it actually? It is net positive suction net, that is given by your maximum suction net upper limit minus your, what is the minimum? Your HS, what we are going to, you can place, where you can place your pump. So I will place my, so what will happen? I will place my pump like this. I will place, so this is the installation of your pump. This is the height. This is the height of the pump. So I will be placing here, but I have an option to go up to MSL. I have an option to go up to MSL, but I can't go beyond MSL. So beyond MSL, what will happen if I try to install my pump above your MSL? There is every possibility of cavitation. There is every possibility. So NPSH available will clearly give me how should I place my pump to avoid cavitation, and this will be at the lower limit or slightly above your lower limit. So your pump installation, where I am going to put, I can't always place at maximum suction limit, but I'll be placing my pump. So NPSH available is always, NPSH required will be there, maybe some 0.2 meters. I will be placing the, so your your maximum suction limit maybe something around 0.4 meters, and your upper specific, the lower specific limit is 0.2 meters. NPSH required. So I will put my NPSH available as 0.25 meters. So NPSH, that is at 0.25 meters is my, where I want to place my. So 0.4 minus 0.2, that is your NPSH required. So I'll be putting it little bit higher than that. So I'll be putting at 0.4. So NPSH available, I'll be putting at some place. So here I'm going to place. I'll be placing NPSH available. So I'll be putting at that particular point where the pump will start working. So that's how it has to work. So that's the position of your pump. So it can give the corresponding head required. Okay. This is about your maximum, sorry, net positive suction head. And we have one more parameter. The pump has to rotate at one particular speed to develop the head. So we call that as minimum starting speed of a centrifugal pump. So this is the minimum starting speed of a centrifugal pump. That is we call it as N minimum. If I take any pump, there is something called as rated speed. So which may be something like 3000 RPM or 4500 or whatever it may be, or 800 RPM, whatever it may be. And 800 RPM is the speed which the pump has to run. And N minimum is the speed with which the pump has to run to deliver or to ensure that the fluid starts delivering. That's the meaning. And it depends on two conditions. One is how this is done is keeping the delivery valve open under two conditions. And the second condition, the delivery valve closed. So under these two conditions, the speed is checked. The impeller speed is checked. So impeller, when the fluid is completely flowing, impeller will run slowly. That means it has to take up the load. So if the delivery valve is closed, what will happen? Impeller, the load is not there on the impeller. Impeller will run at slightly higher speed. That is one with the load and one with also. That means the fluid has to be thrown out from your centrifugal. Because of centrifugal action, it has to be thrown out. But if the delivery valve is closed, what will happen? The fluid is not going out. The fluid will be inside the casing. So under this, we have to derive what is the expression for it and what is the speed. So we'll take up the manometric head. So if you write the manometric head. So what is the expression? So the manometric head is given by, this is the head under which your pump will be working. So HM is equal to your V2 square minus V1 square by 2G plus U2 square minus U1 square by 2G plus VR1 square minus VR2 square by 2G. See, as the pump is already not delivering the fluid, so what will happen? I'm in a position to find what should be my speed. See, what the pump should start delivering the fluid. So if that is the case, your V1 almost it comes with 0. So your this quantity will be negligible. Your relative also will be negligible. What is the minimum speed required for it? So what will happen? Your HM, what is this particular thing? HM should be equal to, or it should be greater than. So it should be, so HM, or we call that as, see, this is the HM. So what we call it as HM should be in such a way that this should be equal to your pump. See, the pump required head, that is we call it as the required head at that particular point should be slightly above your centrifugal forces what is created. That is, it should be equal. See, HM should be equal to, see, this is to simply make the fluid running inside your impeller. If HMC, whatever the manometric head I am creating, and if I call HP as the pump required head, the pumping required head, if it is equal, what will happen? The fluid will be simply, the fluid is filled with the fluid, the pump is filled, the impeller is filled with the fluid. Simply the fluid will be running inside the impeller. The moment it slightly increases, the moment it increased by a small quantity, this head is increased, what will happen? The fluid will start coming. That means, let's say for example, this is my impeller, this is my impeller, okay, this is my impeller, and so what will happen? At a particular speed, this is rotating. At a given point, the once this U2 and U1 starts slightly increase, the head start increasing, the fluid is thrown out like this, so that it comes into casing. Till then, the impeller is filled with the fluid. So if I try to write this expression, your pump head, I think some books they call this as centrifugal head also. Centrifugal pump head or pump required centrifugal head is equal to U2 square minus U1 square. What is my U? Already we know that your U is pi dn by 60. So in that case, U1 is equal to pi dn by d1n by 60 and U2 is equal to pi d2n by 60. So if I substitute this, what is the minimum pump head actually? So this pump head should be greater than your manometric head. Should be greater than your manometric head. What is your manometric efficiency? Already we know that your manometric head is actually, I can relate manometric efficiency is equal to manometric head by your Euler head. So I should ensure that when this particular HP is greater than your U2 centrifugal this thing, there is a forced vortex created. A forced vortex created which will push the fluid out, okay, which will push the fluid out. So I should ensure that this particular speed should be, the moment this should be greater than your HM. If it is equal, what will happen? If it is equal, the fluid is simply filled. See, it is equal, simply the impeller is filled with fluid. That's it. The moment this increases, the fluid will come out. The moment this thing. So if I try to do that, so what is U2? U2 is equal to pi d2 n. So it is U2 square, it is pi d2 square n square by 60, or I can write pi square d1 square n square, fine, divided by 60 square into 2 into g, and this should be greater than or equal to your manometric head. So now I am looking at minimum starting speed. So minimum starting speed means your n is equal to n minimum. So I want to get an expression for n minimum. So what I will do? So n minimum square is equal to greater than or equal to, I will take to the right hand side, this will be 60 square by pi square, okay, into 2g into hm, okay, this divided by d2 square minus d1 square, or I can write n minimum should be greater than or equal to square root of 60 square by pi square into 2g into hm divided by d2 square by d1 square. This is the expression for your minimum. So the pump has to run at, if it runs at this particular speed, the fluid will fill in your impeller. The moment this number, so this number if it found to be 300 rpm, then the pump will, the fluid will get into your impeller. The moment its speed is greater than 300 rpm, so it is 320 rpm, the pump, the water will start coming, the fluid will start coming out. So if I call this as some expression 2 or whatever it may be, okay. So into He. If I substitute for this, what will happen? Your N minimum is equal to greater than or equal to square root of 60 square by pi square into 2g hm divided by d2 square minus d1 square. So I can write in terms of manometric efficiency or in terms of your H. Sorry, this is manometric into H. You can write it as manometric efficiency into your Euler head. Sometimes they may give the Euler head and ask you to calculate the minimum starting speed. So at that time, multiply by manometric efficiency, I'll get it. Or you can find manometric head using that, multiply by manometric efficiency into Euler head, and you can get it. Okay. So usually, when we are looking at the centrifugal pump, the losses in centrifugal pump we have to look in. So the losses in centrifugal pump. What are the losses associated with the centrifugal pump? Fine. There are various losses, but still we try to look at the major three losses. The major three losses we look in. One is the, okay. The second one, your mechanical loss, fine, mechanical losses. And third one, there is a leakage. That is something called as unaccounted, which leaks, which will goes out of your thing. The first one, if I take the first one, the hydraulic loss, I will try to give one or two. What are the things which occur in that? So you have, as I told, there is a formation of eddies. Okay, formation of eddies or eddies, and sometimes there will be shocks. Eddies and shocks form the hydraulic loss, and this can be at the entry and exit of the impeller. This can be at the entry or exit of the impeller. This is one type of losses. The viscous effects. So viscous effects will lead to what will happen? This may lead to some kind of friction on the surface of the blade. The fluid friction, surface of the vane or impeller. So vane or blade of the impeller. Okay. And the friction will occur to vane of the impeller, as well as even the guide vanes also, and the guide vanes. So guide vanes also, so which are stationary. So there can be friction, viscous effects will have friction over there. Okay. And then you have some kind of, you might have heard of maybe minor losses, exit loss, V2 0.5. So there can be little bit of minor losses at the suction delivery pipe side. So that is on the suction and delivery pipes. So all these three, I'm trying to quantify only the major one. So there can be eddies or shocks, there can be viscous, and there can be minor losses. Okay. The second one, the mechanical losses. Mechanical losses. See, your friction, that is between the fluid and the rotor, already we have seen. There can be mechanical friction in the bearing. Mechanical friction where in bearing, coupling, etc. Wherever you have the mechanical parts, you can see. And sometimes if you have the multiple centrifugal pumps, if you go for it, we have something called as discs. So there is a one disc to other disc, say stator to rotor. Those are called as discs actually. There is a disc friction which is purely mechanical. This can be between your rotor, one rotor to other rotor, rotor to rotor, fine, or it can be rotor to stator. So there is a disc section, disc in between. So in between the fluid, if it is fluid is there in between, so the friction may get reduced, or if they are in contact, or there is a slight rubbing action, I can see that there is a little bit of mechanical friction over there. So there is a loss. The third one, the third type of thing what we may come across is your leakage losses. The leakage losses. So what will happen in the leakage losses? The water or the fluid will slip or escape. Slip or escape. It can be at the delivery pipe. Escape at the delivery pipe. What will happen? Say after the delivery valve, there can be some kind of a hole, some kind of a corrosion, whatever may be, some kind of a thing. So water may simply, it can be through delivery pipe or through the casing or through some kind of a gaps where I might be having some kind of a gasket or something to prevent for it. So gasket might have given up. So through this the fluid will escape or slip or escape. The second one. So liquid leaks because of the eddies. So the eddies already we have seen that is mainly because of the hydraulic loss. The eddies may lead to what is called as the energy. See, eddies will lead to energy loss. The eddies will lead to energy loss, which is hydraulic loss, and that may lead to escape of the fluid. What will happen? There will be a local pressure gradient, local pressure rise, something will happen over there. So what will happen? The fluid may leak. So this is one particular, this is also one of the problem which needs to be addressed. So the eddies, which already we have studied, and this will lead to hydraulic loss, but this eddies which may allow the escape of the fluid through at some particular point and all, and we call that as the escape or leakage losses. So the mainly we can look at, these are the three types of losses. One is the hydraulic loss, the mechanical loss, and the leakage loss. This is about your centrifugal pump what we did. So we are left with two more factors. One is the cavitation. So the one is the cavitation. What is a cavitation? As already I have seen that your eye of the, where we can see the lowest possible pressure, we see the lowest possible pressure at the eye of the impeller. Fine. The eye of the impeller will see the eye of the impeller will see the lowest pressure. You can call the pressure is lowest. So what will happen? If suppose, so we call that as PI, the pressure at the eye, at any given point, if it falls below your vapor pressure. What is vapor pressure? Vapor pressure is the pressure at any given point. The fluid will start changing its phase from liquid to vapor. Fine. So at the eye of the impeller, if the pressure falls below your vapor pressure, what will happen? There is a formation of bubbles. Bubbles will form. That's the first thing. So what will happen? Once the bubbles are formed, the bubbles form will stick to the surface. They will stick to the surface of the maybe pipe or impeller itself, impeller vane itself. Okay, it can be pipe, impeller, or casing surface, whatever it may be. Impeller or casing, let me call it as impeller, so instead of calling it impeller surface, let me call it as casing surface. It can be impeller or casing surface. Okay. Now what will happen? So once these bubbles are there, bubbles are stucking over there. The next thing is there is a fluid. So there is a flow of fluid. The flow of fluid. So it's not a, see, there is a small bubbles. The flow of fluid will strike these bubbles, will strike these bubbles, and what will happen? And they collapse. And they collapse. So what will happen? This is a collapsing means bubbles keeps forming. If the vapor pressure is, the pressure and eye of the impeller is lower, this bubbles keep forming, and bubbles keep on going and stick to the surface of the pipe or casing or impeller surface, whatever it may be. And we have the fluid which is coming on. Every time the fluid comes on, they will keep collapsing. Because of the high pressure fluid, it will strike and they have the capability to collapse the bubbles. So if this becomes a continuous phenomena, if this becomes a collapsing of bubbles, if it becomes a continuous phenomenon, okay, what will happen? The material gets eroded. The material gets eroded. What is it actually? Material is removed. The eroded means material gets removed. And this phenomena we call it as cavitation. Fine. I repeat. So what will happen? We could see the lowest possible pressure at the eye of the impeller. And the pressure, if this pressure falls at any given point, if this pressure falls below the vapor pressure, there is a formation of bubbles, and these bubbles will go and stick to the surface of the pipe or a casing or an impeller, and then the fluid which is coming in will go and will collapse these bubbles, and if it becomes a continuous phenomena, continuous is happening. So what will happen? At that given point, so the material will start coming out, and this phenomena we call it as cavitation. Okay, and the last point is the priming. Anyhow, now most of the pumps, they come with what is called as self-priming. Okay, now before starting also, what is this pumping? What is this priming actually? So before starting a pump, actually, I have to ensure that the impeller is completely filled. Okay. Before starting the pump, the impeller has to be filled with the fluid. Which fluid? The working fluid. If it is water, it has to be filled with the water. Suppose if the impeller is maybe partially filled with water, that means that the other portion I do have air, or 3/4 of the air and only 1/4 is water. What will happen if I start the pump? So I won't be able to, the impeller, if it's not completely filled out, what will happen? The pump will start working and it won't deliver the necessary discharge. Okay, the pump will not deliver the necessary fluid. So the process of, so this is the, so before starting, the impeller has to be filled with the fluid. If the impeller is empty, or it is not submerged, or is not merged with the fluid, then what we do? Then we fill the casing, through a wall. We call that as, actually it's a priming wall. Okay, casing through the priming wall, So if the impeller is not merged with the fluid, then we fill the casing. It's not casting; it is casing. Filling up the impeller casing and even the suction part and the suction pipe by the liquid before starting the pump is called as the priming. So it can't see why this particular thing. If that means that if the fluid is not there, it can't see. Without, what you have to do? Without fluid, it can't create the necessary head. It won't create the necessary head. So to create the head of the fluid, or the head of the fluid means, so we need to ensure that the priming, the casing has to be full. Now the present scenario, most of the pumps we come across, they are called as self-priming pumps. So this question of earlier, we used to have this kind of thing where we have to manually open that priming valve and fill with the water and all. So nowadays, the most of the centrifugal pumps, what we get, they are all called as self-priming pumps. So the option of priming doesn't come at all. Okay. Maybe the last topic, I think, left in your centrifugal pump is the multi-staging. Then we'll have to go for the numericals. The multi-staging of centrifugal pumps. Okay. So here we'll divide it into two parts. Okay. So on one side I'll be having pumps in series. Okay. On the other side I will be having pumps in parallel. So just I'll show with two pumps. Okay. Say I have to go for, if I arrange the pump in series, what is it actually? The output from the first pump will be the input to the second pump. That means, so I have a, so this may be a scenario, fine. This may be a scenario. So I have an overhead tank, okay. So this is my one pump, another pump, and I have a sump. Okay, so this is my reservoir at the bottom level. This is my sump, okay, and this is my overhead tank. I have a tank, and this is my pump 1. So 1 I'm writing it as, this is my pump 1, this is my pump 2. So what I'm going to connect, I'm going to connect this. This is my pump 1 connected to this particular thing, and the output from this, this is in, out for the first pump, this is in for the second pump, and out for the second. So they are connected in series. What will happen if I want to create the head? What is the head actually? You look at this. This pump will work under this head actually. See, use a different color. Okay, this will work under this head. Say this is the center. Okay, if I call this as H1, that is for the pump 1, and second pump is working under this head. So whenever I want to increase the head of the pump, so I want to increase the head, that means increase the pressure head, to be very precise. So if I want to increase the pressure head at the same discharge. What is it actually? What is the discharge here? This is Q. Fine. So the discharge which is coming out is also a Q. Here also it is a Q. So here also it is a Q. So for the same discharge, if I want to something like, I have a 10-story building. So I will have the pump at the ground level, first pump, and I will have my second pump at third floor. I will have one more pump at some 7th floor, and so that I can take the fluid to my 10th floor. So I will be connecting the output from the first pump to the input to the second pump, output from the second pump to the input to the third pump, and output from the third pump is taken as the to the required maybe over a tank where I want it. So this is nothing but the pumps are connected in series. So what I mean by it, if I try to draw the corresponding H versus Q, so it will be something like this. If I try to draw H versus Q, okay, what the head does, this is how it looks like. It looks like this is for the first pump, this is for the second pump. That's for the first pump, and this is for the second pump. So I'm going to get the higher head. The head developed by the first pump is this much, and head developed by the second pump. That means input is taken from the first pump, as an output. Say output from the pump is first pump is taken as an input to the second pump, and head keeps on increasing. This is about the pumps in series. What about the pumps in parallel? So I will be having a common reservoir or the pump, that is your sump actually, okay, and I'll be having over a tank something like this. This may be bigger tank, so I don't have a space, that's why. So I may be, this is your sump or whatever it may be. This may be your tank. What I want is, I want to fill this pump at faster rate. See, this tank has to see, if I use one pump, it may take 5 minutes. So if I connect two pumps in parallel, I want it to be filled in 2 minutes. So in that case, what I will do, I will take two pumps like this, fine. I will take two pumps like this of similar capacity or whatever it may be. Fine. This is 1, this is 2, both are connected. So to the same sump like this, they are connected. This is in to pump 1, this is into pump 2, and I'll be taking the out from pump 1. This is out from pump 1, this is out from pump 2, and I am going to connect it. I am going to join them. So if suppose this is Q from the first pump, this is also Q from second pump, both will join with, I am going to get 2Q. So I will be getting 2 times the discharge. But what is the head developed? So if I want to increase the discharge at the same head, increase the discharge at the same head, I will go with this kind of pump. So if I try to put the corresponding HQ characteristic for that, so this will be like this. This is your H, this is your Q, and the first pump will be delivering head developed by the first pump. The second pump will be delivering this head. So this is your thing. So I'll be getting more amount of discharge. So this is about your pumps. So if I want to increase the discharge at the same head, and if I want to increase the pressure at the same thing. So I'll be going with either first one or second one, depending upon your requirement. Whether I want to increase my head or whether I want to increase the pressure head, I will go with this type of pumps.